CBS Sports came out with their rankings for Defensive Rookie of the Year candidates. Two of the Browns' top two picks make the list. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah checks in at 3, and the first-round pick, Greg Newsome, checks in at 9. They have Jamin Davis, linebacker from Washington, is 1, and Azeez Olajuwon from the Giants as the top 2. What do you make of that? How do you think JOK fits into this Browns defense?
Yeah, really tough, Dave, as you know, and great to see you. Really tough to assess rookies right now because they are rookies, and we haven't seen them really do anything on the field other than, last week kind of running around a little bit out there in individual drills. So, I think the good thing for the Browns is that they took guys that they know fit needs for this team. And in JOK, I think you have quite a unique player, a very versatile player, kind of this new breed of linebacker that we're seeing in the NFL. Not necessarily the prototype that we remember, not the Dick Butkus, Ray Nitschke types. These are guys that are more like safeties than they are linebackers, guys that can play in space, guys that can cover tight ends like Travis Kelce and this new breed of tight end that's out there. So I think in JOK, you have a player that Joe Woods, the defensive coordinator, is going to be able to do a lot of things with. I think you're going to see him lined up on the outside. I think you'll see him on the inside. I think you'll see him back in coverage. I think you'll see him coming off the edge on blitzes. So a really interesting player, and I think, again, a player that fits a very specific need for the Browns.
Greg Newsome, also another guy that's young, and Browns aren't sure what they're going to have in Greedy Williams. You never want to hear nerve related to an athlete in the shoulder, in particular for a contact sport. What do you make of Newsome and what he brings to the table, and why he's thought of in that top 10 listing there?
As a Big Ten guy, I did watch a lot of Northwestern games last year, and I have actually a lot of friends that went to school there. And so a little part of my heart pulls for the Wildcats. So I did pay a lot of attention to Greg Newsome, and I really liked what I saw. It was Pat Fitzgerald, the coach at Northwestern, who I can't say enough good things about, plays a very interesting defense up there. And, they did a lot of zone coverage, but they did a lot of press man-to-man too, which you don't necessarily see a lot in college other than the big programs. Your Alabama, LSU, Ohio States are going to play up on wide receivers. But Northwestern did the same, and Greg Newsome more than held his own against a lot of good wide receivers. Unfortunately for them, he got hurt in the Big Ten championship game, and we also didn't get to see a chance for him to match up with Chris Olave, the great Ohio State wide receiver. But, a terrific player. And I'll tell you what, Dave, just being out last week at Browns minicamp, he's one of those guys who really passes the eye test. When you see him out there, you just see how smooth he moves and just the fluidity in general, just to his physique and his body and just the way he carries himself. He just looks like a player. So to your point, I think the Greedy Williams situation is such that they had to make sure they had protection there. And I think we all hope that Greedy can bounce back and be a contributor here, which will be his third year. But in lieu of that, you've got a guy now that you can match up with Denzel Ward and have, potentially two of the top cornerbacks in the AFC on the same team.
And a young guy, just turned 21 fairly recently.
Hard to believe. I mean, when we talked to him too after the draft, I was really impressed with his composure. And then, especially with a lot of these young guys, Dave, I think back to what kind of a knucklehead I was at 20 or 21, and just to think what all these kids at a very young age are having to deal with, having to grow up really fast in their careers. So, again, I think in Newsome and in JOK, two really astute picks by the Browns.
And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because it certainly seems like Andrew Berry in this front office and Kevin Stefanski know the type of player, air quotes, type of player they want. And there are some definite traits that they look for, and it's those that follow it closely can kind of identify, yeah, that fits what they're looking for.
Totally agree. I think there's a thread that runs through all of these guys, and I don't think it's any accident either, Dave, that they've been taking these guys from the last 2 years out of big programs. I mean, these are all, players from accomplished programs. You talk about Northwestern and Ohio State down in LSU and right on down the line. You're getting a quality player. You're getting guys that played against the top competition at the Division I level. So, again, they talk about smart, tough, accountable, all those things. And pretty much all the guys the Browns have taken over the last 2 years have checked all of those boxes.